Just doing the intro. Okay, welcome back everyone to another Downward Day. Now, this is not a downward drive, but we have the same setup. But we got 4 hours and change to go through Georgia, so figured might as well turn the camera on and record some interesting content here through the Georgia countryside just to pass the time. Great American pastimes. When you think of ways to pass the time in this country, you think of going to work, sitting in traffic, watching ads on TV, watching ads on cable TV that you pay for and it still has ads anyway.
While drinking beer.
Watching Downward Diary.
While drinking beer.
And being drunk while drinking beer.
Yes.
But one of the biggest pastimes of the 21st century, suffice to say, will have to be playing video games. And I don't know what else there is to say. I think for several years there was sort of this implication that if you use the internet, if you were an online guy, it's automatically implied that you love and enjoy video games and you spend money on video games and you spend 10 or 12 hours a week playing video games. And this is something I used to do quite a bit, but lately I just haven't been doing it. I haven't felt like playing games. I don't really know what it is. I mean, I had a video I uploaded on my channel a couple years ago talking about sort of what is, in my view, the decline of the video game industry and how the industry sort of, it's so corporate now and the products being put on the market, they're just so uninspiring. Game design is not as complex. It's all just, it's like the whole thing is just geared to make you spend money on microtransactions rather than creating a fun, replayable, intrinsically value experience within the game. They're designed to be more addictive than fun. They're designed to just give you this false sense of progression, like you're actually accomplishing something by just gaining experience points from grinding and unlocking stuff in the game that should honestly just be unlocked by default, but the companies have become massively greedy, so they're giving it up. So Jerry, you and I used to play video games a lot. Team Fortress 2, Left 4 Dead, Counter-Strike.
Those are the days. Those were the days.
And now that we've grown older and kind of have entered the workforce, sort of just stopped. And now these are all good games I'm talking about. They're not even bad games. They're not even examples of sort of the downfall of the video game industry. They're all old, fun, classic, replayable titles. There's just something about it lately where I haven't really been feeling it. I haven't really been feeling like plugging in the game, booting it up on the computer, and sinking several hours into it. I mean, TF2 was probably the last holdout for me. For many years now, it's been one of the only games I pretty much consistently played. Ever since I reset my computer after I downloaded that virus, I haven't reinstalled TF2, and I haven't played it.
Virus? What was this?
Well, if you watch the Downward Diary, there would be a perfectly good explanation for you.
Trying to download some porn, huh?
That's not what was happening.
Dirty, dirty dog.
That's not what was happening.
You know, you don't have to download it, right? You can just, watch it online. No need to download it these days.
If only video games were still as addictive as porn. Maybe then I'd still be playing it. But you know what? They are addictive.
They're just not fun.
You get called a boomer for saying this. You get called like Jack Thompson, ban the video games because they cause violence. You get roped into that argument. But video games are addictive. Oh, and when you use the word addictive online, the semantic police and the people on copium who enjoy the product you're talking about that is addictive, they'll declare a semantic war on you by saying, oh no, I can quit video games and I don't have hives and rashes appear. Look, stuff can be figuratively addictive. It can form these toxic habits, these toxic, repetitive habits that are harmful to your physiology without actually meeting the qualifications of being chemically addictive, where you go through literal physiological withdrawal. Believe it or not, it's perfectly valid to call something addictive when it possesses addictive qualities. And video games Whether you want to admit it or not, they absolutely do.
Yes.
Because they're immersive. They present you an alternate reality where the goals and motivations are completely different. I'm not using this to encourage people to stop playing video games, or I'm revealing character development about myself.
Okay.
The audience deserves to know
I don't think
that I don't enjoy playing video games anymore. I'm sorry, okay? Like, I just don't find them fun anymore.
Is that part of it?
Maybe I can pick up a game
Rolling.
and it's still fun. We are rolling.
We're rolling.
Yes.
We're doing live.
We'll do it live. You just gotta go with it. That's the key of speaking off the cuff that I've learned. But video games, I think my hesitation at this point, it comes from just the opportunity cost of spending X amount of time playing it.
It's not productive. You're not doing anything. It's fake.
And I'm not one of these like Sigma grind set people who says you have to sleep 2 hours a day and day trade stocks at the gym.
Got it.
But there's something to be said about how to truly immerse yourself in a video game, it requires a significant time sink. And we could do that when we were in high school, which is probably when we played the most games online together. But lately, I don't know what it is. I just don't find them satisfying enough anymore to be worth my time. That's all it is, plain and simple. I'm sure that something like Elden Ring is super fun and immersive. People sure won't stop talking about how it is. I just can't justify allowing myself to be immersed. Because you're asking about something that will take up 40 or 50 hours of my time. And to me, I've sort of changed where maybe 5 years ago I would have given up that time, but now I would much rather put it to more practical activities. Stuff that has actual bearing and consequences on reality. And I understand that for many people, video games are a form of escapism. Like, we get it. A lot of people, your life sucks. It's good to have a little outlet, a little place where you can blow off steam, where you no longer have to be encumbered, even for a little moment, about the troubles and anxieties of your life. And sure, if you play video games for that reason, by all means, I'm sure many people find it therapeutic. But I don't really have a depressing life. So I don't really need video games for that purpose. Jerry, I saw you playing Call of Duty yesterday. What do you think? Is it just as fun as ever, or something missing? Do you feel like maybe sort of growing out of it?
Precisely. I feel like I'm growing out of it.
Really?
Yeah, when I was a kid, I had limited access to video games just because my parents didn't approve of it. Because it's bad for your productivity or whatever. So whenever I could, I would sneak games on my laptop or play games on consoles at my friends' houses. But now that I'm older and I actually have the time, or not the time, but I have the money to buy whatever games I want and play them, it's just not as enjoyable. Because like you said, the opportunity cost of playing that video game, I think that time could be better spent doing stuff like anything else.
Yeah.
Literally anything else. I mean, like I beat Metal Gear Solid 5, maxed out most of the stuff in there, but then afterwards it's kind of an empty feeling, like, wow, I just wasted so much time doing that.
Yeah, it's like once you exit the game, you feel this sort of hollowness within. It's like, oh boy, I guess on to the next one or something, or
Yeah,
man,
pretty much.
I could have used that time to do something in real life.
Yeah.
And again, it feels extremely ironic to bring this stuff up, because you brought it up where your parents said, oh yeah, video games are a waste of time, they're unproductive. It's true. I've come full circle. I agree now,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, if you enjoy video games so much intrinsically, go for it. It's a free country, no one can stop you. But I don't know. This past year, I've started taking a lot more accountability into building up a little bit more discipline with myself. It's awfully rich coming from me because There are only 5 Emplemon videos in 2022. But look, we're on the diary, okay? We started the diary. There's videos coming out, all right? Sheesh.
And you're gonna stop making videos.
Give me a
on the main
break.
channel. The main channel is being shut down.
By discipline, I generally mean trying to eat a little bit better and exercise more and take a little bit more accountability for my personal and mental health. And as coincidence may have it, as I've sort of been pursuing these personal health goals, video games have sort of slipped out of the picture. You can make of that what you will, but I honestly reached a point where I no longer need them. Or I hardly even want them anymore. And it's strange because I always used to be someone who like, yeah, I'm a gamer, yeah, gamer pride. All those boomers who complain about video games, they can stick it, they don't get it, they're out of touch. But as time goes on and I accrue more wisdom, I can't help but find myself agreeing with the boomers, at least on some aspects, about the nature of video games and about how I think a lot of people would be better off without them.
What I've realized is that this channel is sort of documenting your descent into boomerhood.
It's a downward descent for sure.
Yeah.
Like again, you can't say this online. You especially can't say this on Reddit. But I'm starting to view people like above the age of 22 or so who have a strong affinity for video games. I'm starting to sort of view that as a personality flaw.
Ironic.
Like you can't say that. I'm gonna get hate. I'm gonna get hated on for saying this. Circumstantially so, there are certain people I know in my life who will not be named in this video, where they spend all day playing video games and they have no ambition, no desire to improve their life, their social standing. It's almost as if they're choosing to make their real life situation inferior to whatever virtual life they craft in the video game. And the older I get, and as my peer group sort of ages up, I'm noticing a correlation between the ones that tend to be unemployed, deadbeat degenerates, and the ones who also tend to play a lot of video games. And again, please, I'm not trying to attack the gamer community out there. I know they've tried to attack me before for the slightest inconvenience whenever I talk about video games. So you know what? Maybe there is a bit of animosity built up there, okay? A lot of comments and people on my video about video games, which I thought was pretty fair and balanced, were pretty nasty and toxic. There's a lot of toxic people in video games. And yes, I've heard complaints about using the word toxic from gamers. They think it's some sort of political stance to use the word toxic. No, it's an apt word to describe what a lot of you have become, what a lot of gamers have become, and what is basically part and parcel of gamer culture now. Just being a degenerative, toxic person who's abrasive and unlikable to those around you.
I've always wondered, you know, especially playing a lot of COD, typical Modern Warfare 2 stereotype of people saying racial slurs and stuff. Do you think those people just like say that online and then go back to being like a normal person?
I mean, I imagine they don't go into their job at McDonald's and start saying that to the customer. But who knows, man?
It's pretty appalling.
They definitely say it online.
It's pretty appalling.
Gamers are some of the hardest people to deal with online. You can be completely respectful
Gamer words.
and everything. In this new chapter of the Emplemon style of video, I've always had the most problems, like the most unnecessary, unwarranted backlash when talking about video games.
Can you enlighten me? What was this video you're talking about?
I guess specifically I'm talking about the video, have video games been on a downward spiral, and the video I made on Hungrybox.
Oh,
Which it's like my most viewed video.
I thought that video was basically saying that he's a good player.
Yeah, but when that came out, let me just bring up a point of comparison. So, I guess I've been pretty known online to sort of visit these certain disparate topics. And from my end, it gives you a real good impression of sort of the caliber of people in each little space I'm choosing to enter. Like, are they going to welcome me or are they going to give me the cold shoulder? So I made a video about Dale Earnhardt, my first real foray into NASCAR and NASCAR content. And man, the NASCAR community is so nice and welcoming. They're like, hey, come on our podcast, NASCAR Weekly Podcast. And this year I went out and visited those guys and went to a race with them. And it was awesome. I'm good friends with a lot of those guys now. Contrast this with the Melee community. So for anyone who watched the Hungrybox video all the way through, it's very clear that I was presenting the topic with a great deal of respect and reverence for what Melee players have to do and for what that competitive scene has accomplished. But when I posted the video, although it was a big hit with casual audiences, the Melee people, they gave me the cold shoulder. They did not care for this narrative that was a little bit different than the whole circle jerk they had going on, where Mango's the best, Leffen is cool, and Hungrybox can just fucking go stack wood in the corner, because fuck him. I presented something that maybe offered a little bit of pushback to that whole ideology, and boy, you should have read what the subreddit had to say about me.
Your subreddit, or their subreddit?
No, the Melee subreddit.
Okay.
Now, of course, this is a bunch of brain-dead Redditors, and I've never liked them.
Never.
But it's interesting to me. I take note of this. Over long time periods, I take note of which little micro-communities online are cool and which are a bunch of sanctimonious pricks who don't want to hear anything other than their own little echo chamber.
You know, it's starting to sound like when someone you know says, I'm not racist, but... and then proceeds to make a huge generalization about a group of people. What do you have to say about that, Aaron?
You can call it a generalization, but it's what I experienced.
Mm-hmm.
The video was very popular with casual audiences, and it was very unpopular with Melee people. And I had a lot of respect for Melee. I tried to portray the scene as positively as I could in that video, but...
So the main gripe was that you said the wrong player is the best.
The circle jerk at the time is that Hungrybox is like ontologically evil and needs to be removed from the community because he's ruining the game.
Is that one of the pedophiles? That was the thing, right?
He was not one of the people accused.
Good.
But it's all this shit, man. Smash community is kind of dead to me now.
It's over.
I hate to say it. It's going to be sucky for people who watch that video and then come back and watch this to hear that. But that's how I feel. Smash community is dead to me. You know? Should have been more like the NASCAR community. Welcome in, Emp. I had this great deal of appreciation and respect, and they just treated me completely differently. And I guess I'm using this example to sort of generalize all gamers, but it was like that too on my other video about video games. The decline of the video game industry.
Now it's shooting on Nintendo, if I recall correctly, no?
Coincidentally, the Nintendo video had less backlash than either of those two videos.
Oh, okay, that's a different video.
I should lump in the Nintendo thing because that video was inspired by a ton of backlash I got for tweeting out complaining how Nintendo fans are a bunch of suckers. Where whenever Nintendo releases anything, they drop whatever complaints they have about the company's inefficacies and just go back to spurging out about whatever stupid new characters in Smash or whatever stupid new sequel game is coming out. Nintendo fans are among the worst.
Yeah, for sure.
There is no fandom on the internet more brain dead and more sycophantic.
Sycophantic. I like that word.
Oh, here I go, bullying Nintendo again. You guys bring it upon yourselves. In fact, I have no idea how so many Nintendo people have gone this far unchecked without becoming a complete joke to the entire internet. The Nintendo fandom, for all intents and purposes, should be viewed in the same vein as the Sonic fandom, the My Little Pony fandom, the Rick and Morty fandom, the anime fandom, all of them. But for whatever reason, so many people give them a free pass because, oh, Nintendo, my childhood, it's so whimsical and epic and cool, and Mario is doing one-liners in the Mario movie. They're just as obnoxious, if not worse. I'd say they have been worse to me. I would rather be locked in a room for 24 hours with a Sonic fan than a Nintendo fan at this point. They've gotten on my nerves that much because so many of the people are just obstinate man-children. And here we go again with the stuff you're not allowed to say about gaming fandoms. Man-children.
Man-children. Man-children.
Nintendo fans, plain and simply, they tend to act like children online. It doesn't matter how old they are. You can't guess. You can see a Nintendo fan tweet something idiotic in my replies, and I can never know how old they are. Could be 12, could be 32. Who the hell knows? They have the same brain capacity, basically. There's no difference. Tell Pam to spot the difference between the two pictures. They're the same picture. 12-year-old and a 32-year-old Nintendo fan. They're just the same type of person. Unable to actually use critical reasoning to deduce basic logic. So yes, with all these repeated negative interactions over the years with various gaming groups, I have lost a lot of respect for gaming culture, whatever it even is at this point. I definitely think when I was a kid, whatever gaming culture was a hell of a lot closer to representing something than it is now. Now it's basically about just either being contrarian about everything or just completely spurging out and going ape over whatever new game gets released that's just going to end up being yet another disappointment to add to the garbage pile. You either have to be the total, ultimate, ultra fanboy or just the guy who hates everything. And I don't hate video games. I like video games. A lot of them are really fun. They're a big part of my childhood, of course. I sunk a lot of hours into them, and I don't necessarily regret it. But there comes a point when I have to acknowledge that using those hours today, it's a little bit ill-advised to spend so much time playing video games now compared to when I was a kid and I didn't really have any skills or I didn't have any works to produce for income. It's a lot harder now to justify it. And when it comes to this sort of philosophy about adult gamers, there's sort of this figurative must and staleness that comes with it, like 3-day-old fish. Like it's something that feels like it's gone past its expiration date. And I'm not saying that video games are inherently for children and that you have to be a child to play video games or anything. But I will say there is a childishness that comes with a lot of gaming culture today. I don't know, man. It's just, I'm just over it. I'm over it all. I'm over the culture. I'm over the games. There's like hardly any new games that interest me. And even if they look good, like something like Elden Ring, I don't want to spend the time to do it. I pretty much stopped playing video games. I still play Pokemon Go, funnily enough.
Avidly, I might add.
But that's a very unique situation. Like I'm trying to enjoy the outdoors a lot more. And that's something that it's actually encouraging to go out and get active. Imagine that, a video game that makes you more active instead of sitting on your ass playing for 12 hours straight and having a piss bottle because you're so goddamn addicted to whatever you're playing. I don't hold gamers in contempt, even though that's what it may sound like. Please. I've had bad experience with like certain minority parts of gaming niches. And I'm not trying to characterize gamers as like this inherently degenerate thing. It's just a thing to do, like listen to music, watching movies. But there's certain aspects about it that you sort of have to admit are bad for you. Particularly the immense amount of time that people tend to sink into it. Pay for a movie ticket, watch it, it's over in what, 2 hours? 3 hours if you're watching some incredibly stupid thing. My God, man, these games take 50, 60 hours. And that's if it's just a single player game. These online games, it's gone from a product to a service. It's just a live service. Every game has to be a live service now. Perpetual, endless content. The show never ends. We're living the dream. This is just the never-ending game. I'm so glad we've got live service updates, live patches now. The game never has to end. You can never put it down. You can just perpetually be sitting there, grinding away. Oh, but thank God it's an escape from real life. Thank God games aren't like the grind of real life anymore. Oh boy. I just don't get good vibes from games anymore, man.
Not anymore.
No.
I think video games are just more fun when you're catching up with old pals.
That's another thing.
Like Andrew.
TF2.
A little bit of trolling on TF2.
Yeah. TF2 and Left 4 Dead and stuff like that was always so much more fun when playing with the boys, you know? And since everyone's become more busy and gone off on their separate ways, they're in the workforce, they're in the wage cage, they don't have the time to have a night of gaming anymore. That was honestly the part I liked. I liked spending time with friends. That was the part that made games fun. Not just like endlessly playing alone, trying to get ELO or MMR by yourself. That's where games get frustrating. That's where games get toxic. It wasn't about playing the game itself. It was about goofing off with friends. Games offered an outlet to do that remotely, to do that after school, after everyone had to go home and do homework. It gave us a little nice window of opportunity to shoot the shit, you know, to have fun in an extra space. And that's something I feel like that's missing from a lot of modern games. Yeah, it's multiplayer. Like multiplayer Wi-Fi connection, whatever. It will never be more fun than queuing up with your friends. It will never be. Maybe you can make friends online, and a lot of people do, but it's just not the same for me. And it hasn't been the same. I remember everyone stopped playing TF2 after the stupid, crappy Meet Your Match update came out. That was what killed it. And then everyone just stopped playing in the friend group because they didn't want to sit through the new queue system and the horrendous queue times on launch. It's a live service now. They had to update it. They had to modernize it. Modern is not always better, folks. Sometimes you gotta respect the classics. The way things were back in the day. Didn't know how good we had it back then. It's all just a steady decline. Just another layer, another strand of the downward spiral. Gaming. What video games have become now.
Another layer to the onion.
I'm sorry if you're looking for a structured, well thought out Reddit argument. This is how I feel, okay? Maybe there's not much logical about it. It's how I feel. Go watch the other video and complain about that if you want a little more structured, well-written argument. You wouldn't be the first. My God, you wouldn't be. See, at least when I'm spending my time ranting and complaining about video games instead of just playing them, I have something to show for it. I have something that I can put out there on the airwaves for other people to enjoy. Something that can earn me a little bit of shmoney here and there. What do I get out of video games anymore?
What I'm hearing, Aaron, is that if you don't have a hobby that you can monetize, you should not do it. Putting words in your mouth.
Maybe I shouldn't.
Stuffing words.
Maybe I shouldn't even mention the money, because honest to God, it's not even about the money. I just enjoy complaining.
Yes.
I enjoy complaining and pissing people off online.
If you're good at doing something, don't do it for free, as they say.
I enjoy enraging people with my complaints. And you know what? People are going to be upset at that video. And you know what else? I'm getting satisfaction out of it. I think it's fun.
It's a weird fetish going on here.
It still pisses me off to read hate comments.
She's jerking
but here
off.
I am, just doing it.
Jerking off.
Just making this intentionally inflammatory video to multiple different people.
To rack up the views.
And I know people are going to comment and rage stuff. But I'm here for it. I'm just here to complain. I was born to complain. Maybe I was just never cut out to be a gamer.
You're cut out to be a boomer.
I'm cut out to be a complaining boomer. That is my destiny.
Boomer.
Making this video complaining about video games is honestly 5 times more fun, 10 times more fun than any video game I've played in the past 2 years. If I asked myself 6 years ago whether or not I'd feel this way, I would have said there was no way in hell. Gamer for life. Gamers rise up, you know. But you know, funny thing about that, I did rise up. I rose up out of the chair. And now I go outside and walk on trails and stuff. I've recently started wanting to go mountain biking and kayaking. I find it more fruitful, more enjoyable. Touching grass, you know.
Touching grass.
It's
Fucking cows touching grass.
It's a bit of a meme at this point, but my God, does it come from good intentions. People need to go outside. Oh,
And fuck cows.
it's the ultimate boomer convergence. Stop playing video games and go outside. You'll honestly have a better time. Probably 9 out of 10 of you, I'd imagine, I'd hazard a guess, would have a better time instead of spending all this time grinding out MMR on League of Legends. Go outside. Go walking, go running, go biking, go swimming. You'll end up enjoying yourself a lot more. You'll find these activities a lot more satisfying. And maybe shed a few pounds while you're at it. It just keeps getting worse for them. I know if I was talking to myself 6 years ago, I'd be pretty pissed off right now. I'd be leaving an angry comment.
Yeah.
But boy, it feels good to get this off my chest. I feel like I've had this pent up for a while, because you're not supposed to say this online. The prevailing online circle jerk culture has to be perpetually pro-gaming, just like hating on all the games. Some rightfully so, because they're generally mediocre nowadays. But in general, being like the head honcho, having like super good tastes about video games. Like God forbid anyone plays a simple phone game. You have to gatekeep what it means to be a true gamer. But yeah, we love video games, but they all suck. But we love them. I won't play any of them though, because they suck. I'll only dump my 7,000 allotted hours of gaming a year into Elden Ring and nothing else. Have you played Elden Ring?
No.
I hear it's really good.
Cool house.
You should play, it's like the greatest game of all time. But who am I kidding? I come from TF2 fandom, and that's the ultimate eternal circle jerk about calling a game the greatest when it's under a developer that won't even put in the bare minimum effort to fix the problems. Maybe Valve needs a little bit more of that live service action. They're the only company that's actually managed to make good games, and they won't update them, they won't fix them, no matter how much money they generate. The one game I liked, still, TF2, freaking ruined. It's just ruined. Bye-bye. Find something else, go do something else, and I have, Is it safe to say you're still growing up at age 24? Maybe the older people would say that. It generally feels like there's a time where you're supposed to settle in and just have all these old habits that you just perpetually do until you're old and gray. But no, I'm continuously finding myself just wanting to do new things and not wanting to do old things. And for me, playing video games has just gone by the wayside. Maybe I'm making a big deal out of this,
Yeah.
Surely there's some people out there who feel this way. It just doesn't have the sauce anymore, man. It doesn't have the pizzazz. It doesn't have that staying power. That hook that makes you want to just keep playing and playing. And sometimes I play games and they still have those addictive mechanics where I want to just keep playing, Over this past Christmas break, I went back to my parents' house with my old PS2 that still barely works, and I played NASCAR 06. I played it for like 10 hours over the Christmas season, and it was fun. I still had lots of fun with it. And sure, I don't know how much of it is just blind nostalgia, but part of me really feels like companies used to give a shit back then, and they made good games. They made games that were actually fun to play. Don't really get that anymore. Don't really get that from that many new games. No, this indie game. Here's the thing, even if it was fun, and I'm not denying that it is fun, I'm sure I could play it and have fun. I just don't want to at this point. I just don't feel like it would be a productive use of my time. I think I'm going in circles at this point.
You are. You do that a lot, Aaron. Do it a lot, Aaron. What's said has been said.
Whoever, go click off this video. Go play a game. I have more fun making videos now than I do playing games. So, whenever I have the urge to do something, when I'm feeling a little bored, I'm probably just going to turn on the camera and record Downward Diary instead of playing video games. Maybe that's why I'm not doing it anymore. Downward Diary. Downward Diary has ruined the main channel productivity, and it's ruined my desire to play video games. Because why not just turn on the camera, record a video and post something online rather than booting up a game that will make me feel kind of good for a little bit and then eventually just finding myself in a situation where I continually keep on playing, hoping to reignite that spark I once had, but it never comes. It never comes, Jerry.
The only thing that's coming is you after you read the comments.
Oh yeah.
Type your furious response.
I'll be furious.
Sicko. Sicko.
We create drama to create wealth. That is the game on YouTube. And some of your favorite gaming channels, they do it too. They can talk about how much they love Elden Ring and how much all these other games suck. They're doing the same thing as me. I'm just being honest about how video games these days, they don't have the same staying power that they used to. That's just for me. You can feel free to disagree. But I know going into 2023, it's something I'm really not going to be doing. It's going to take a lot for me to get back in good graces with the gaming community and for them to get back in good graces with me. I guess that's all I had to say for now. Feels good. Feels good to get it off your chest despite the impending backlash and doom and hatred that I'm going to have to face for daring to bring up the idea that video games are possibly addictive and not good for you. But that's neither here nor there. I'm looking forward to see your comments below, and maybe a year from now, I'll catch back up and see if maybe my mind has been changed. Here's a spoiler for you. I'll feel even more strongly that video games suck and that they're not worth it. So, any last words, Jerry, before we sign off and let the people have at it in the comment section below?
No. Just cut it off. Cut it off before you get there. Just cut it off.
Just cut it off. That's good advice for now.
End the video, Valerie. Just end the video.
I cut off.
You should have ended the video like 30 minutes ago, Valerie. Just end it.
I cut off my gaming habit, and now I'm cutting off this video. Goodbye, everybody.